right now, let's start where we don't want to, but where we must. And that is with the New Orleans Saints. Danny, go ahead and bring up this picture of Eli Drinkwitz here in the first segment here. It's a video, actually. Go ahead and bring it up. There's no sound to it. We don't need any sound. But, Jake, when you see this, I want you to recognize that I don't know that anything could better encapsulate how I feel about this Saints team right now than how Coach Drink looked after that battle in Jordan-Hare on Saturday. Disappointed, frustrated, overwhelmed, and seemingly hopeless. Hair askew, chewing on his lip, just no idea about what to go, what happens next. We're just really just defeated. And how could you not? I mean, the Carolina Panthers had lost 9 games in a row coming into this game. It was the longest losing streak in the NFL. And I mean, think about how good it probably felt for the Panthers, right? I mean, to carry that into the offseason and then to lose the first 2 in the manner that you did, with like a 58-yard walk-off, like they probably felt incredible yesterday. But you look at this Saints team, you lose to a team that had the longest streak in the NFL. Didn't just lose. You kind of, despite maybe in some weird statistical ways out-voluming them, you were never even really in the game. The special teams look bad. You had a blocked kick and a missed kick. Third down game plan remains awful for the third week in a row. Right before the show started, Jake said to me, like, I don't think the Saints ever practice a blitz period. And, well, if you watch the game, you're probably feeling the same. Just go cover 0, overload the O-line. They'll dump it off exactly where you expect them to, and you'll get 2 yards. They outgained the Panthers again, 426 to 293. And I don't say that as a positive. I say that as a reinforcement of how bad it was in that they were barely ever even in the game. It did not matter at all. And right now, unfortunately, Jake, the Saints feel like the type of bad that almost anything that can go wrong does go wrong. Yeah. And I think the sequence that really drives that home, right? The defense has been great, actually. We should not overlook that. I know it's hard to champion that, but the defense has been fantastic this season thus far. And so despite all the bad, you score a touchdown, Jake, beginning of the fourth quarter, it's 13-7. You're good to go. I mean, you are right there. You're fine. Everything is fine. The first 3 quarters did not matter. And then, like I said, anything that can go wrong will. What happens? Laviska Shenault. Hell of a name for somebody that fast. But Laviska Shenault ends up finally breaking through that excellent defense, 70 yards, and just like that, it's not a game once again. And injuries start to pile up. It's just, it feels bad to the point right now, Jake, where it's like, where do you even start, right? After LSU lost to Florida State, we had very clear areas in which to critique, in which to improve. Like, where is area number 1 for the New Orleans Saints right now?
It's got to be, I think it's starting with the quarterback position. It has to start there, and it has to start with them getting on the same page and them being comfortable with each other. I've never, I don't want to say never, I mean, surely it's happened before, but I don't remember a team that looked as lost when teams bring pressure as the Saints do right now. I mean, they're double A-gap mugging and just laughing at the Saints because they know exactly what they're going to do or what they're not going to do.
Yeah.
And it looks like they have zero answer for anything that is an exotic blitz. Unless they just bring like one guy, the Saints have no plan for it. And you have a veteran offensive line. And you have an offensive line that's got some really nice pieces, okay? Where's the disconnect at? How is it not getting communicated from the Saints sideline to the offensive line to the quarterback? And that's all going to fall on the quarterback, fair or unfair.
Yeah.
Right? The quarterback's got to get you in the right protection. So there's just, it's clunky. Like that was my word yesterday. I'm sitting there and watching, God, this is clunky, this offense. Like there's no rhyme or reason for a lot of things. And even when they have success, they shoot themselves in the foot. So I don't know how, I don't know how you get it fixed quickly. And the thing in the NFL, like you don't have a lot of time.
No.
You don't have get-right games like you do in college. Like if LSU wanted to work on something this last weekend, well, they could have because they had a get-right game. If they wanted to get right, Southern was a get-right game for them. You don't have that ability in the NFL. So I don't know how you get it fixed. Carolina's not a good football team. And you only gave up 293 yards. and you still couldn't find a way to win the game.
Not only that, you were never really in the game, which is awful.
That was the worst feeling, is like you felt like you had no business being in a game in which you gave less than 300 yards up.
Yeah, and you gained like almost 5. Yeah, I mean, look, Jameis has to be better. We mentioned holding on to the ball too long. That continued. You mentioned the confusion. Maybe there's an element of missing the leadership of Tron Armstead. That was something that was kind of talked about coming into the year, that as much as you were going to miss Armstead as a player, his leadership was top tier. What about this, dude? Because I know this doesn't explain it all, but when I talk about the wide breadth and the overwhelming nature of just how poor the team seems in multiple areas, it's really hard to feel like the team isn't desperately missing Sean Payton. And I don't know if it is, I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it's an amalgam of all these things, right, Jake? I don't know if it's like game planning, the actual play calling once you get to the game. Because look, Dennis Allen's still doing a fine job with the defense. They remain elite in that regard. Or maybe it's like even, and Jake, maybe this is where you can give us some better insight with your experience in NFL locker rooms. Maybe it's just kind of the competency and the belief in it from a team that comes when you have a head coach that you know is very good. A guy with a ton of experience. Just the feeling that he gives off when you know that he's been dominating for kind of a decade and a half in this league versus all this relative newness and Allen and Carmichael. But it doesn't explain it all, but it's hard not to feel like the Saints aren't desperately missing their former head coach of the last decade and a half.
Well, there's a reason why when every job came open over the last decade plus, like Sean Payton's name was attached to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the NFL circles, they know what kind of coach he is. But the thing that I can't understand is it feels like you started over, but you didn't.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like Dennis Allen's been there.
Yeah.
Pete Carmichael has been there. I mean, Pete's been there for forever.
Yeah.
Like, so you should be comfortable with those coaches. You should have a belief in those coaches because you've been around each other. You've had success. And like you mentioned, like Dennis Allen is actually doing a really nice job defensively. The defense is playing really well. I mean, outside of that one play that you talked about where P.J. Williams took an awful angle, I mean, they played lights out.
Yeah.
The offense just, it feels like there's somebody new calling plays. It feels like there's new personnel, and it's just not the case.
It's true.
Like when you have everyone out there, only Chris Olave is really the only new piece. I mean, everybody else has been there, including the coordinator. So that's where I have a disconnect. It's like, why is it not getting communicated from the sideline to the huddle? And also, look, Jameis has been in the NFL a long time.
Yeah.
Like you gotta help out. Like you gotta get in some protections that you feel good about, because he was not great by any means yesterday. And some of his throws, we can break him down. I know he's dealing with the injury, and your guards are awful right now. I mean, historically bad.
Song remains the same.
So, but still, like, you've been together too long not to have something, not to have a cover zero beater, not to have a double A gap mug beater. Like, it just looks like all right, we got the play called. They're showing double A gap mugs, 2 linebackers walking the A gap. Oh, God.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's.
Oh, what do we do here? And then they just don't adjust. They just call a play that they have called. And you can't do that. You have to, okay, hey, they want to do that. All right, even if they drop, we've got to know that this is what we're going to do based off of it. And then to your point earlier, once they did that, the Panthers knew exactly where they were going hot with the football. There's a 2-yard slant, and they tackle it right there for 2nd and 8.
It's like forcing a right-handed guy to go left, right? I mean, you are, sure, the Saints may complete the ball, but the Panthers are completely controlling where the Saints are completed too, right? It's like they're a puppet on a string. So Jake, maybe here there's something to glean from an optimistic standpoint. Like, in theory, shouldn't that, now I know it's very perplexing why it's still happening right now, and so maybe this is not as easy as I'm saying, but like, in theory, shouldn't that be relatively easy to fix? Like, isn't that kind of game? Right? Like, you should be able to clean that up.
They should be able to clean that up in a walkthrough before lunch.
Okay.
Like, every NFL team has like a little bitty old walkthrough that they have after film right before lunch, and they should be able to go and clean that up. Hey, when 2 guys walk in the A gap, we're going to do this. When they want to bring 7 guys, we're going to do this. Like, that's what is concerning, is Because it's not just this game.
Yeah.
It's been all 3 games.
Yeah.
All 3 games, teams have known that they can pressure New Orleans, and New Orleans has no adjustment. Like, that's what I want to know today. Like, when Dennis Allen, when he gets up there, I hope someone asks him, what is the plan to fix this? Because, again, you have a veteran offensive coordinator who's been there for a very long time. I know he wasn't calling the plays, but he has been in place. He's called plays before. We all know that. Okay? You have a quarterback that has now been in the league for a very long time. You've got an offensive line that has a lot of veteran pieces. Like, you have Kamara. I mean, we know the roster. This is something you see when you hit complete reset and you've got a brand new offensive coordinator, a first-year head coach, and a rookie quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't be the case.
And already, I mean, the results just like that newness. Like you said, last year under Peyton, through 7 games, what was Jameis? 5-2, 14 tuds, 3 picks. I want to say it's like 4 tuds, 5 picks already this year. Now, granted, one of those yesterday is a Hail Mary. Another one's a batted ball at the line. These are kind of the breaks, but like Jake said, it's very head scratching for it all to feel so clunky and so new when all the pieces have remained the same. Fire's going to chat says we can't even look forward to the draft. Yeah, so that is what is not helping any of this is the fact that the Eagles are currently 3-0 and own all your draft picks, and it feels like you have just boosted up the Philadelphia Eagles and accomplished nothing in said boosting.
Dennis Allen, by the way, did come out and say, hey, we're sticking with Jameis.
Yeah.
We're not making a change. And so he's already, made that public. You just, like, obviously Jameis has an injury. And if that injury is affecting him, now it didn't look like it was affecting him at all, like, as far as his body movement early in the game.
He can still launch it.
In the fourth quarter, it did. I mean, he looked like every person that's ever got underneath the bench tried to lift too much, and then they get up and they're kind of walking like this because their lower back is just on fire.
Oh, man.
But what value can he give you right now if he truly is, if he's hurt like that, and the mental aspect of it as well when they're not picking up the things that we're talking about here? Like, there's a reason you wouldn't sign Andy Dalton. I'm not even calling for it because I don't know how much better Andy Dalton's going to be. But there has to be something. Something needs to get the Saints back on track.
Yeah. Impetuous Tiger in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat says, you knew what you was getting with Jameis Winston when he was in Tampa. This should be no surprise. And look, if you're of that mindset, I could definitely see how you arrive there. The problem is why this is confusing is this does not look like the Jameis of last year. And it's not because they've just unlocked him, right, and they're letting him throw like we said they should. No, he just looks deeply confused as compared to last season. And also, you can get into all the analytics, and there's like all sorts of arguments to be made that Jameis looked like a quarterback who was ready to take a massive step forward, and instead, it unfortunately feels like the complete opposite has happened. So, We'll continue to talk Saints. Probably revisit a bit later on in the show. Look, Chris Olave remains a bright spot amongst all the crap, for sure. Going over 100 yards, first Saints rookie wide receiver to do that since 2018. But it does ring a little hollow. Oh, and then also nothing worse than being a bad team and having bad injury luck, right? And if you're already bad, it doesn't help them with Andrew Pete, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Taysom Hill, Jonte Hardy already out this game. Traquan Smith, like, the injuries are starting to pile up as well. So we will see. Again, it can get right in the NFL quite quickly. It's a week-to-week league. So I know that you're allowed to, it's Monday, right? 24-hour rule is still in effect, so you're allowed to kind of bask in self-pity if you want, and hopelessness. But just realize that these things can be fixed. And as we get into some of the NFL results around the league in hour number 2, you'll see that, week to week, this league is absolutely insane.